What's up, everyone? Welcome to 5v5 Live. That's Eric Kummel. I'm Matt Hempstead. And latest in League of Legends, I suppose, is NA LCS is over.
It's done. No playoffs.
Nope.
Regular season. It's
That's
over. TSM won. Wondered.
TSM won because they're in first place. That's right.
Yep.
Pretty exciting. But we have some playoffs coming up. Not this weekend because we need to take a break.
They got to study their opponents. You know.
Kind of stupid.
The art of war.
Should just get ready. Yep. Everyone reads that book for some reason.
Monte Cristo gives it to every team.
I don't think
study
it helps. No, it doesn't help. That's dumb. Anyways. Also, G2 lost this morning to Rocket, so that's pretty exciting.
They said they'd never lose a series. Well, Perk said they'd never lose a series. I knew right away they were going to lose to Rocket in the last week.
Right away?
Yep. As soon as he said that, I saw it coming.
You're pretty smart.
I didn't see it coming.
Oh, well.
It doesn't really mean anything.
No, I mean, look, Fnatic's going to get first place anyways, G2 second, and they'll both be in the finals.
But it's still funny. And maybe Fnatic loses to NiP as well, and then, wow. That's a very interesting Thursday in the EU LCS.
Yep, Clown Fiesta Thursday. That's what it's called. Anyways, all the talk right now, I mean, look, patch 7.15 was a big change and whatnot, but the playoff patch is going to be on 7.16 for the entirety of it. Even with Ornn coming out in a little bit, he doesn't matter. He's not even going to be a Worlds, poor guy.
Yeah, that's too bad.
But 7.16, and the main changes are, there's a lot of nerfs, a lot of minor nerfs, things that don't really matter too much. They're trying to get, like, you know, balance changes ready for Worlds, so they're kind of playing around with stuff. But Syndra, Cass, Orianna, Taliyah all got nerfs in the mid lane. Galio got a top lane nerf. Caitlyn got a nerf on her Q, which is actually probably the biggest nerf out there.
Yeah, and also her Traps damage, which, yeah, I think the nerfs to Caitlyn were pretty big, so you might not see her being constantly permabanned in every game. But yeah, they basically targeted every meta mid laner that's going on right now. Yeah, we'll see if these changes are big enough to actually change guys from picking these champions. Probably not, but it might inspire them to come up with some new ideas. Caps earlier playing Azir. If Azir's back in the mid lane, that's pretty sweet.
It is pretty sweet. I think they just want to try to mix things up a little bit because for the past, who knows how long, it has been those 4 mid laners plus Corki, who also got nerfs to his attack damage ratio. So, or I think it was base attack damage. But
yeah, I think it was base attack, which is weird because Corki, of course, always gets a buff before Worlds, and now they're giving him a nerf before. I don't know. They better change that before Worlds comes.
It's pretty concerning. I think the major ones that should be discussed are probably Orianna. I know her distance damage is down, and then her shield also got nerfed. So she's been dominant in the mid lane, I think, forever.
Basically, since she was released, she's just the fallback pick for pretty much any mid laner to pick up. Yeah,
you can't counter her. She's just that safe blind pick mid laner that you feel comfortable taking in the second rotation. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and yeah, they did nerf her shield, but it was pretty bonkers. Like
yes,
when you're going full AP and you just throw that on your AD carry, it is absolutely insane. So I think even with that nerf, I think she's still going to see play competitively.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the ulti is pretty decent.
It's not bad.
I would say it's all right. And then again, her laning is always going to be decent with the auto attack kind of damage that she has. But probably the biggest one might be Taliyah because the mana changes increased quite a bit. Like at max level, it was 70 mana cost, and now it's 100.
Yeah, and you're basically spamming that every 2 seconds. Like people don't even really auto attack with her. They're just constantly spamming her Q in these team fights, and especially in these extended fights, which is kind of what she thrives in because she can just constantly be putting out DPS. It might change, or maybe it'll change the build path more than anything else for her, probably.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage for a champion that has a global, and you can be pretty much anywhere at any time.
Yeah.
So I mean, she's got the utility plus a lot of damage. So.
And you can play at a pretty safe distance with that Q. So I think maybe just, getting more mana regen items or base mana on her. Maybe people go that route. Or they'll just stay the exact same.
Probably the exact same, but who knows? Rod of Ages, Taliyah, anybody? Probably not. But
hey, Rod of Ages, Orianna works, sort of. It has worked.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. Patch 7.17, that's a ways down the road, and it's not going to be relevant for a little while, but the main thing in that patch is the new champion. Looks pretty interesting, Ornn. When you look at his abilities, he brings all kinds of utility. He has a pillar. He has the, what's it called? The bee thing?
The bee thing?
Let me look it up.
Recall?
No, not recall. I don't know what you're talking about.
When you press B, you do
brittle.
Recall.
Brittle.
Oh, brittle. Yes.
Or if you hit him with the last thing of your flame or whatever, It
Yeah.
like increases the CC of the next thing by like 30%.
Which is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts.
Just pick full CC comps around him and then stun lock champions for 35 minutes. That's not so bad.
No, it's not. And on top of that, he has a stash, and if he hits you with terrain too, there's a knockup. So there's a lot going on. Also, his ultimate is he headbutts a ram at you, which is pretty cool.
Really cool, actually. And the fact that you can redirect it, and yeah, just look at the graphic on that thing. Those are the biggest
What is
horns.
that?
That is absolutely terrifying. But I'm most excited for that little pillar that pops up, solely because anytime you can encourage playing Vayne bottom,
Oh
you
no.
condemn them into that pillar. I'm a big
Advocate.
advocate, that's the word. I'm a big advocate of Vayne Anivia bottom. Everyone should try that out. You do the condemn, and then you put the Anivia wall right behind. They don't know what happened. Do that with this new Ornn fella. Ooh, Vayne's coming back. Vayne's coming back.
You're a terrible person. Also,
Yep.
Vayne had some pretty crazy buffs on PBE apparently. So-
See, they're slowly
You're onto
bringing it
something.
back. Here we go.
But on top of all the his abilities, the big thing for me, there's two of them. One is that he can buy things without being in the shop, which is
Yep.
pretty good. Don't have to recall to buy something. I'm down for that. And then he can also upgrade other people's items. And it came out, I think it was today, that you can only upgrade 8 of them for like the cost of 1,000 and then 500 gold for support items. But basically, you can upgrade IE, Rabadons, Black Cleaver, the list goes on, but there's only 8 of them, and you just get bonus stats. So if you go to the late game with Ornn on your team, you're gonna win.
I mean, it's basically he's gonna have no items. He's just gonna spend.
Yeah.
Because you have to be making these out of combat, right? So it sounds like he's just gonna be underleveled, have no items, and basically just be like a courier for his team, upgrading their items constantly. I'm curious to see like how long it actually takes him to make these items. He might like get experience whenever he completes them or something, kind of like when Bard roams out of bottom and just leaves the AD there for like 30 minutes while he's getting chimes. But at least Bard can leave behind those, whatever they're called, shrines or whatever, the sustain that they can leave behind for an AD. Ornn, he just kind of leaves. And he's like, good luck, I'll upgrade your Infinity Edge at 25 minutes.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah, worth it.
An extra, 35 attack damage or something?
Yeah, 30, 35, I think.
Something like that. But again, if you go to the late game with this guy on your team, it's CC plus you're just gonna have like a little bit of an
4
extra
upgraded
item
items,
on somebody else. So it's like, okay, it's an interesting. Again, props to Riot for making a new champ that's completely different than everything they have so far. Because you can get pretty caught up on this whole wall system or whatever. Sometimes you see champs with kind of similar abilities, but Ornn is completely new, and it's pretty exciting. And I think teams are gonna try to utilize everything you bring because it's a lot of new stuff.
Now, could you jungle with him? You think you could maybe, in between camps, you make a quick item and then go back to killing those minions? He'd be a pretty slow clear, I feel like.
Yeah, I think he would be pretty slow.
But you got terrain to run into all the time.
That is true. Probably support.
Probably support.
But who knows?
Could be some nasty ganks, though. Bring that huge ram in.
Yeah. Headbutt him to someone.
Yeah. Too bad he's not at Worlds.
No, it is too bad. But they don't like to make these big splash changes right before Worlds. Because
they do pretty big patch changes before, just not a whole new champion, I guess.
Fair
enough.
I would like to see it though. Let's jump over to EU. And Jankos, not too long ago in an interview, said something along the lines of, because there's this whole discussion about how EU has no personality, which is not exactly the case.
Not really.
But his comment was he doesn't think a lot of NA players have a lot of personality either. Basically comes down to EU players not streaming as much, which is a valid point. You definitely don't see EU players streaming as much as like Doublelift or Pobalt or Sneaky obviously is the main one probably, but I actually just don't get the publicity, and like fans don't cling on to these guys as much because you don't have pretty much everyday access to them.
Yeah, and I read some interesting comments on Reddit, which is pretty much always the case on Reddit.
Yeah.
But people are basically saying a lot of these European guys also stream in their native language when they're going. So people who don't speak it, who only speak English, can't really participate in the stream. They have no idea what's going on, and obviously the hours are way different in EU, but I actually think EU players have maybe more personality over the board than NA. Just look at heading into Rift Rivals. Yeah, all that trash talking seemed pretty forced by Riot. They really wanted to hype that up, but I think in general the EU guys were talking more smack than the NA, which is why it really came to bite them in the rear end after Rift Rivals. But guys like Jankos has way more personality than anyone in NA, I would say. Even Doublelift, a guy like that. I think in general, EU trash talks more.
The only problem is, it seems like personality is defined by the amount of trash talk you do.
That is the entire rant I just went on. Yep.
I don't really understand. But like, I mean, there's a lot of cool dudes out there. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know, because in North America too, there's a lot of these imports that you don't really get to relate to either, because you don't have these interviews with the guys and it's through translators. So yeah. I don't really know where the whole EU has no personality thing came from. I don't really see it as the case. You mentioned Jankos. Perks is always down to talk trash too, but maybe it's a bit more respectful over there.
Yeah, I think in terms of both leagues, it's just you don't know enough about a lot of these players. They need more, even like that thing a couple splits ago with Dignitas where it showed that like Gamsu liked cooking and was super into cooking, which you were like, okay, I don't know why you're showing me this, but you're like, okay, I guess he's a chef. Now I know something about him, and people could be like, oh, I'm a chef. That means I like Gamsu. But now they're kind of outputting these features like the one they did with Acadian, where it's like,
he drives
a car.
Cars, yeah.
Oh, I guess I like cars, so I like Acadian. Like, you don't have enough backstory to a lot of these guys. I think it's the main issue for both regions.
That one wasn't very hard hitting, no.
No.
It was lackluster. The Han Sama one's probably my favorite of all time, though. When he's
right, he's
pretty sweet artist.
Drawing. Yeah, so there's an actual backstory for someone. You're like, okay, they actually have other passions other than wearing a dress shirt with not many buttons done up and driving around in a sports car.
But yeah, I feel like you have more access to North American players, just based on even teams now doing their kind of week-to-week documentary kind of things.
Yeah.
You can get his insight into TSM, what Cloud9's up to.
I mean, Fnatic does have one as well.
Right, but just Fnatic.
Yeah, that's about it. G2, I feel like they had short ones last split, but they seem to have kind of fallen off. Even a guy like Trick, you don't really know much about him. A guy who's been pretty prominent in the EU scene the past couple years. And yeah, you don't know too much about him. Like Perks and Sven, you basically just know they roast people on Twitter. So you're like, oh, that's funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole EU has no personality thing. Yeah, I'm not buying it. No, I'm not buying it. Let's stick with H2K, because they're 8-3, but once again they get doubted endlessly because of the past and some of their performances this split. But I mean, last year they were in the semifinals at Worlds, which is pretty good.
It's very good.
And again, they are tied for first in Group B. So my question, I guess, is do they have a chance against G2 and Fnatic? Because everyone's just doubting them regardless of what they do anyways.
Yeah, I think doubting them is a little different to what people have done in the past. They've kind of hyped them up. They've been like, oh, I think H2K can maybe beat G2. They can beat whoever the top person is at that time. And then they usually fall flat on their face. So yeah, maybe now with this doubt, they'll maybe feel a bit less of that pressure. But I think in terms of with G2, because they've been dominated by them for like their whole existence pretty much, as has the rest of the EU LCS really. I think it's just a bit mental with them. I can easily see them taking game one in a best of, and then they get all hyped up, and then immediately they lose game two, and they're like, oh no, we can't do it. We can't beat them. But I'm still not confident in their bottom lane. I think top half of the map, and Fabibin has been great all split. One of the top 3 mid laners in EU probably. But that bottom lane has been pretty inconsistent. And against Sven and Mithy, that's a pretty heavy edge to either G2 or Fnatic.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned both of my concerns, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
The first one is the bot lane and Nuclear and Che, who statistically they're doing fine, but when you compare them to like Reckless and Jezus and Sven and Mithy, it's not going to be a good look down there. And too many times they die straight up in a 2v2 situation without getting ganked or pressured. Yeah. And that's not going to help them whatsoever. And then the other one is that kind of they're prone to tilt. And even the opposite, which is they're prone to getting too hypey, which both are bad, especially in a best of series. Yeah. Where you can make one bad play and then you're tilted across the map. And Jankos is responsible for that sometimes too. He'll just get a little cocky and then make something stupid happen, and they lose the game from there.
But they did show in multiple series this split, particularly that one against Misfits where they were down like 13k gold. Yeah. And you'd think they're like, whatever, we're done, blah, blah, blah. But they somehow came back to win that game, mostly because Misfits threw.
Yes.
So I don't see G2 or Fnatic doing any massive throws like that. But maybe they've grown a little bit mentally over this last split, and maybe a guy like Fabivin, who in the past, in these big games, he has definitely shown up, whether it's international or domestic playoffs, any big game, he's had a pretty solid performance, so maybe having him on the team will change their outcome this year.
I still think one edge that HUK has is in the jungle with Jankos over Trick.
They're both pretty inconsistent.
Trick just went 0-7 against Rockhead in a crucial game 3. I don't love that.
Pride Stalker is just one of the best in the league.
He walked into Rockhead's jungle and just died to Pride Stalker in this game. It was very bad. So check that out. But I mean, some concerns for G2 losing to Rockhead overall. Probably just a whatever loss. But let's get over to who HUK is tied with in Group B. That's Unicorns of Love. And I'm not gonna beat around the bush too much. Exile has been bad, and I've been pretty vocal in saying that. And even when they win games, this past week against Splice, they went 2-0. But Exile's scoreline in two wins was 3-3-4. He had 3 kills in 2 wins.
That's not negative, is the thing.
It's not negative. His KDA is still awful. But how do you have such little impact in games that you're winning? His game 2 kill participation was 14%.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to make of Exile this whole split. We've said it countless times that people were expecting him to be at the top again, but I mean 3-3-3 is a lot better than scores
3-3-4.
3-3-4. Yeah. Can't forget that extra assist.
No.
That's a lot better than he's been in some of these other games where he's just gotten camped and basically fed off the face of the earth. So I think maybe this is showing progress, and the fact that UOL is still winning a lot of these games when Exile is almost irrelevant in them, it's pretty impressive. And I think Exile has kind of latched on to his new role, which, by the way, isn't a great role for your mid laner to have, but he's almost like a distraction going into these team fights, and just, especially when he plays someone like Vlad, he's just diving in. It's almost like he's expecting to die before he even gets in these fights. He'll flash in, do as much damage as he can, die, and be like, all right, you guys clean it up. And Samix has been pretty much the whole split. He's probably been their best player, and somehow it's working for Unicorns. I feel like they're going to get super heavily exposed come playoff time, but who knows? Yeah,
I mean, they're still 8-3, which is pretty solid, but that mostly was because of a 6-1 start where everyone's like, oh my god, the Unicorns of Love are outstanding.
But even then, Exile was pretty bad.
Right, yeah, and then Rift Rivals exposed that even further, and I feel like coming back from that tournament, all the EU teams were like, oh, we can camp Exile and do very well. And it works. That's been going pretty solidly for them. So he's going to have to do something. And also the Unicorns of Love are the team that wards the least in the EU LCS. So that doesn't help.
Why he gets ganked so often.
That's right.
But he doesn't really react to after being ganked. He just keeps playing aggressive. And yeah, they don't ward much, so it's pretty easy pickings for the other team.
It is. All right, it's North America time.
Is it that time? Oh, you're right.
2:22 or something like that. Yeah, North American time.
Yeah.
So, first up, TSM. They won the first seed after taking down CLG. Congratulations.
Pretty anticlimactic series, by the way. TSM CLG.
Game 1 was a stomp, and then Game 2 was close. And there were some interesting moments in that game, but overall, TSM was, I wouldn't say in control, because there were some Baron fights that definitely went CLG's way, but here is the NA standings. Phoenix won and Team Liquid in the meaningless promotion tournament. Congratulations on that. FlyQuest, Ego Fox just get to sit out for an extended period of time. And then you got Envy against CLG, Dignitas against Cloud9, Immortals and TSM earning those first round buys. But going back to that TSM CLG series, I was really hoping for more from CLG. But one thing that really stood out to me for TSM was their game plan going into Game 2. And this entirely kind of helped them get an edge, especially when they picked Jinx. This invade level 1 where Biofrost kind of throws the Q blindly into the brush and gets Stixxay's flash. Svenskeren then takes this red buff. And nothing totally crazy about that, Darshan trying to get in there and get involved. But then Svenskeren goes at level 2 to gank Stixxay, who doesn't have flash, and just picks up a lead. First blood on the Jinx, which is huge, especially on a champion that can struggle if you get dived on.
Yeah, and I think that's something teams really don't do enough is when you burn someone's summoners, you just are like, all right, his flash is down. You can play more aggressive now.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, you go gank them again and they have no escape, especially on someone like Ashe where you're helpless. You throw your hawk shot at their face and hope they think it's your ult and then try and flash it or something. Yeah. But yeah, so just really smart play there by TSM. They get the flash, run right down there. It's pretty cheesy. There's no way Stixxay or Afro would be expecting that. He ran basically across half the map just to go right for that gank. So pretty risky play. If that doesn't work out, Sven is set so far back, but it does work out for them. And yeah, that's something you kind of expected CLG to do against them, but TSM give them taste their own medicine.
Yeah, I was about to use that line, but you stole it from me again. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that whole thing. Thought out before the game even starts, we're going to go do this, get flash, start red, go down, get first blood. So impressive strategy, and it worked out. But like you said, if that doesn't work, Sven is probably screwed for that game, and Omar God has a huge momentum advantage over the rest of the map, which is something he doesn't get too often, especially on his Gragas, where a lot of the early games he kind of sits back and does not so much.
Yeah, it's not like he's been bad by any means in his time in CLG. He's just kind of been there. Like, he's not.
That sounds bad.
He's not dominating the opposing jungler, and the opposing jungler isn't really getting any advantages off him. He's just kind of, what Xmithie was when he wasn't at his best. Maybe he's like the neutralizing factor, except he doesn't fully neutralize them. But basically, he's good at Gragas. I'll give him that.
Wow.
He's good at Gragas. I'm not sold on him yet.
No,
we'll
I'm
see
not.
In the playoffs if he can, play in these big pressure situations.
He hasn't really played anything other than Gragas.
Nope.
Which is going to be interesting if teams decide to ban that away or just be like, you can have Gragas.
I mean, he's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
Good champion.
Yeah.
Good at playing him. But I feel like any jungler in the world right now competitively should be able to play Gragas and land his combo.
Yeah, it's definitely a must-have.
Yeah.
Big discussion now that the regular season's over. NA MVP. For me, it's pretty one-sided, but a lot of people are like, no, it can't go to him. And I'm like, why can it not go to Jensen, who's I think is hands down the MVP of this split? I mean, look at his numbers against anybody, specifically Bjergsen. And I mean, Bjergsen has good stats too, but KD ratio, almost 2 full points higher. Jensen's got like 50 more kills than Bjergsen. Damage percent about the same, but his laning is also fantastic. Being up 9 CS at 10 minutes. Yeah,
he's smashing these 1v1 lanes. And like the main thing about Jensen is since C9 has went on their roll, they were 6-6, they won 6 straight series. During that stretch, he's got a 13.6 KDA, which is pretty insane. And in those 15 games, he has double-digit kills 4 times in 4 of those games. And he's only died more than once in 2 of those games.
That's absurd.
That is absolutely disgusting. So it's pretty hard to argue against this guy, but I'm going to make a case in a bit.
In a bit? You're just going to tease it like that?
Yeah.
Well, all right, fine.
No, you can just praise Jensen a little bit more. Go ahead. Jensen's great.
My biggest issue, not even with Jensen, is just everyone who calls him a KDA player drives me absolutely insane. Because I don't know. I understand like people being like, oh, he doesn't want to die, or he's refusing to make plays to keep his KDA intact. But it's just that he understands his limitations on whatever champ he's playing so well that he can get these kills without actually having to give away any deaths. And I mean, you can't just have double-digit kills by not making any risks or not trying anything. He's getting involved, and if he gets a kill early on, he takes over these games, and on like any champ, he can get double-digit kills.
And it's also not necessarily being a KDA player, but basically, if he dies in most of these games, then C9 loses the fight, like 100%. Some of these games, he's hard carrying the whole game, so he knows he's like, well, I have most of the gold, and I'm way ahead of my lane. So even if I do like a 1-for-1 with someone, we lose out because I'm way more fed than anyone else. So he's just so careful because he knows all the pressure's on him on a lot of these games, and he delivers. So.
You want to make your point now, or are you going to wait? Should I get to the other options?
Yeah, go ahead.
So those are probably the 2 main candidates.
Yeah.
But I think there are a couple supports who could potentially be in the running as well. I think Ole and Smoothie are both guys you could consider as potential MVPs. But unfortunately, they don't get much credit because they don't do damage. They can be playmakers, but they're not the guys who carry the game in the long term. But I mean, Smoothie with a cover participation of 77.3% is outrageous. especially on Alistar now. Both these guys have made some pretty crazy plays. Ole's Bard has been talked about a lot. Someone who stepped up huge this split is Ole in that bottom lane with Cody's son to kind of propel them into like a top 2 bot lane in North America. So I think both these guys could be considered as well for just being Smoothie, especially a shot caller on his team.
Yeah. Now, you're right, it's way harder to give credit to a support as opposed to a mid laner who's carrying these games. So the only way, feels bad, man. But you usually get honor at the end of the game, so that's good if you're support. So the only way I could maybe argue against Jensen is if you somehow make the award like a bottom lane. If you gave it to Ole and Cody's son, then maybe you could be like, okay, this is one of the main reasons Immortals completely turned it around this split, just the improved play of these 2 games. Maybe they get a co-MVP award of some kind, because then they're basically, one isn't the same without the other, obviously. And that way you're kind of not just giving it to a support. There's no way Riot would ever do that. But that's the only way I could see Jensen not getting the award.
So you think it's Jensen?
I think it is. It's pretty hard to argue. I mean, he's the most important player on his team, and he consistently dumpsters the opposing team. But if it was a co-MVP, maybe Ole and Cody's son.
I respect that.
But then you could probably pick a lot of bot lanes if you're picking both of them.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's Jensen. I don't think it's close, but that's fine.
Bjergsen's good, though. He's a good player.
No disrespect to Bjergsen, but
huge
Jensen
disrespect
said it.
to Bjergsen.
Yeah.
Overrated.
Screw you, Bjergsen.
Can't stand him, yeah.
Hate that guy. You want to get to some playout matchups real quick?
I guess we could.
I don't want to get into them too crazily because next week is going to be like a full preview for these matchups.
We'll really get down and dirty with it.
That's right. It'll be lane by lane, who's going to win, who's going to lose. Heads up, Envy will lose. Spoiler alert.
Whoa.
I know. Big spoiler.
Looking into your crystal ball, huh?
That's right. First match is Cloud9 against Dignitas, which is definitely the more interesting one of the bunch. They played in, I think it was week 7, and it was a 3-game set. Dignitas stomped game 1, and then Cloud9 came back in game 3. So I think it's a pretty close series. The bot lane's very intriguing now, especially with I'll take an Adrian against Sneaky and Smoothie. But that was kind of back this series when Sneaky was in this weird place of feeding and not having good
It's a dark place. I've been there very often.
It's spooky,
The thing with the series that they have played already this split, they played twice, went to game 3 both times.
First one doesn't matter because it was a different team.
That's true.
Yeah.
Dig Big was still out there. But both times they played, I went to game 3, but the 4 games the Cloud9 won were super convincing. They slaughtered Dig. They were all sub 35 minutes, most of them sub 30 minutes. So I'm not sure how close those series actually were. Even the most recent one, some of these games, it was like 17 kills to 2. And Cloud9 gave away a couple kills at the end. So they weren't really close at all. So I think Cloud9's still got to be pretty heavily favored in this one. And outside of the bot lane, it might be more even across, but except for mid.
Yeah, mid's
because
not.
Jensen's I don't know if you've heard, he's probably the top MVP candidate.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
That's right.
Must be some smart people who said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. C9's won 6 straight, as you mentioned. And just last week in week 9, they beat Echo Fox in a combined game time of under 50 minutes. That's disgusting. So they're systematic right now. And Impact is coming into his own. And when he gets going before playoffs start, C9 does pretty well, as we've seen in the past. That's what happened before. And he's going to do it again. He looks great right now, especially with the whole tank system going on up there. He loves some tanks.
Yeah, Cloud9 did kind of get saved a bit by this meta change, because for a while it was a lot of these carry top laners. But yeah, now that it's back to stuff like Maokai, Galio, even Gnar, Impact's been it's pretty
gnarly.
Good. Gnar. Oh, I don't like that. I didn't like that
That's
one.
too bad.
Ugh. Gross. What's the other one? CLG, right?
CLG against Envy. Oh, let's go. That's exciting.
I said coming in that this is the most competitive and going to be the most exciting NA LCS playoffs that we've had in a while. But these matchups might have been the most lopsided you could have gotten. Envy comes in totally limping into these playoffs.
Yes.
1-8 in their last however many series to close out. 1-8, only 1 game win. I'm getting 2-0'd everywhere. Oh, I would not be confident in them at all.
No, and CLG already showed they can beat Envy. In week 8, they did a great job shutting down Lyra, getting Omar God involved early. So, it should be a pretty easy series for them. I don't think it'd be close. I mean, Seraph looks awful. He looks really bad. In week 9, he had 2 kills and 25 deaths.
Yeah, but how many assists though?
10.
Oh, there you go.
That's not
getting
good.
close to even KDA.
That's
halfway there.
That's a KDA of under 0.5. That's abysmal. And like, Envy is a playoff team. You have to have a top laner who can hold his own a little bit because he's getting camped right now. But you have to understand, like, you know, I'm gonna get camped. I'm gonna get the Dyrus treatment, and it doesn't stop until you show you can kind of push them away.
Yeah, but he's playing his former team who kind of ruined him per se. So maybe he gets that little extra motivation and buff. You know? You don't believe?
I don't believe at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Unfortunately, we have to talk about this series a lot next week too. So
it would be very CLG-like for them to
that's the thing.
Take this to 5 games.
You never know which CLG is
out.
going to show up.
Yeah.
You never know. Because it could be the one that loses
just spin the wheel.
Phoenix 1, yeah.
Spin the wheel, win one game, false hope.
I wouldn't be surprised if they lost, to be honest with you. I'd be
a little surprised if they lost.
But not overly shocked. All right. Let's see what people have to say, Eric.
Yeah, bring in the questions. We'll get way more into detail for those playoff previews next week.
Yeah, we're going to really break it down. Unfortunately, for the one series, NV CLG, we're going to really go in depth. So
yeah, it's an hour show just about CLG versus NV.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great.
Get the questions.
All right. Wesley Brown wants to know, do you guys think upsets could happen all over the NA playoffs? Honestly, I don't. I don't see many upsets happening. I think it's going to be the top seed pretty much winning the entire way. The only one series that can be close is after CLG and C9 win. It'll be a C9 TSM semifinals, which is a huge bummer, by the way.
Yeah.
And then whoever wins that series will probably win the whole thing, in my opinion. But I don't think there's going to be too many upsets. I don't think Envy is going to beat CLG. I don't think Dig will beat C9. I think it's just going to be the top seed winning every matchup.
Yeah, I don't see anything really happening big in the quarterfinals. I think I'd be surprised if these were 5-game sets for probably both of them, which again I thought would be a given coming into these playoffs. But teams went opposite directions the last couple weeks of the split. But yeah, the most intriguing one will be if Cloud9 plays TSM, and I could really see C9 winning that one and breaking the streak of TSM. 10 straight LCS finals. Basically, just because Jensen's amazing.
Yeah, C9's the one team I think that can pull off an upset if you consider C9 beating TSM an upset, which I think people would going into that matchup. But other than that, looks pretty bleak, unless Dignitas does something crazy, but that would be...
Keen, got to bring out the Urgot, bring out some other crazy picks.
I want Hecarim mid again.
Hecarim mid, that'd be pretty awesome. I think... like if it's CLG and Immortals, I don't really know what's an upset. Like,
yeah,
I feel like that's almost a 50-50 set. So whoever wins that, I don't think you'd be surprised either way.
I would think Immortals would still be favored by a decent margin.
I think it'd be pretty close.
It would be close. Hopefully, I just want some good series, some good 5-game series. I don't want stomps. Honestly, I'm rooting against a TSM CLG finals because we just saw what TSM can do to CLG and it's ugly. And
would
if
Immortals
that's the finals,
be that much better?
I think it'd be closer.
Okay.
But that's just me.
So basically the finals will be the semis.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Imagine if the brackets were reversed and it was CLG against Dignitas.
They might lose that.
Yeah, that's true. They would lose probably. Liam, who do you think the best Korean team is coming into Worlds right now? Well, we don't officially know who's going to Worlds yet, but LCK playoffs start tomorrow. Freaks against SKT. First matchup, not bad. SKT in the first round of the LCK playoffs is also a little interesting to see.
Yeah, usually waiting 2 weeks till they actually end up playing.
Yeah.
Who's the best? That's pretty tough. I got to do a little more research, as I say. I'm usually not up at whatever 4 a.m. watching all the Korean games live, but I got to believe this is KT's time. I know historically this might be a chance for them to kind of choke it away as an organization when people are kind of looking at them, but I think after this playoff run they're going to prove that they're the top team heading into Worlds.
Wow. You believe in KT. That's not something that a lot of people do.
I believe in the playoff run.
It's
their time. They're such a stacked team, man.
It's their time.
Yeah. You don't like that?
What time is that?
Yeah, Yeah, whatever 4 a.m. Is that when they play usually?
Okay.
Yeah, 4 a.m. time.
I think it still longs you. They only have to win one series to get to Worlds, and I mean they look pretty solid across the board. They don't get upset by these teams too often. The lower tier teams. Prin Girl as a bot lane.
It's best team coming in, not just maybe the first seed isn't even the best team in Korea coming in. It might not be.
It might not be. SKT might be the best team going.
They might be. They might roll through these playoffs and crush everyone, and then everyone will be like, oh, well, never mind. They're still good.
The long con, everybody.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them.
I half expect them to go on a run like they usually do. So.
Coach Koma told them, you have to lose 9 series in a row, and then sweep through the playoffs, and then everyone will be terrified because you are the gods.
Wasn't even Faker on stage. Twin.
They got pretty realistic looking masks you can get these days. So
that's what I'm saying.
Look into it.
Have you seen Game of Thrones?
It was Arya all along.
Yeah, exactly. Philip Paul wants to know, what do you think of FlyQuest pulling out those clutch wins at the end? Well, first of all,
were they clutch?
They were interesting games, and they avoided the promotion tournament, which means nothing. So congrats on that.
It's clutch in that sense.
But what it does do is that they have a pretty good chance of going to this gauntlet now.
No, reverse sweeps are coming back.
And if you have high in the gauntlet, anything can happen, everybody. And by everything, I mean they'll still lose in the first round of the gauntlet. Yeah. Well, they could beat Envy, actually, if they... Envy won't be in the gauntlet, though.
If they win a set in that gauntlet, my head might explode. Then there is definitely either A, it's scripted and Riot just ensures that High wins some of these sets for the entirety of his career and he's going to play until he's 40, or NA isn't as good as I thought. These middle tier teams are just not good because FlyQuest is bad. And I think they're bad.
They're bad. You're right.
Even before when they were going on their crazy sweeps, like they still had, like High wasn't the central focus of that team. He was just a great shot caller, right? They still had Jensen and Sneaky. Now it's like, it's High. He's a carry. No disrespect to High. We love High.
We do.
He's not the most mechanically skilled player anymore.
No, and it amazes me that Elimination and Balls are still on any team, whether it be LCS or Challenger or pre-made ranked 5s. They've just been around for so long.
Flex queue?
Yeah, that's exactly.
I will say,
I would dodge.
If you had Elimination and Balls on your team, you would dodge.
Yeah. I'm out of here. Yeah.
I got to say, Elimination's drive story, though, much better than Acadian's. Much better than Acadian's.
You don't like the drive it around in a fancy car one?
No. I'm glad that one wasn't 15 minutes.
That would be extremely painful. So no faith in FlyQuest?
0. Actually, you know what? I never give 0. 1%. I give them 1% of my faith.
That's almost worse. Philip Paul also wants to know. He said clutch because if they lost, they'd have 0 chance to go to the gauntlet and possibly go to Worlds.
Okay,
yeah, they did pull it out in a good time because, again, they still need some help to go to gauntlet because they need CLG to beat Envy in the first round, I believe. And then they qualify.
That's pretty bold.
So, if High is behind CLG, then CLG is even more guaranteed to win.
Yeah, I guess if their playoff lives were on the line, then it's only fitting that High and company come up with the win when they have to, because that's basically what happened during their magical run, like 15 series in a row. So kudos to them. He still got the clutch gene.
Yeah.
You love that term, right? Clutch gene?
Clutch gene?
Yeah.
It's a good one, yeah. I'm sure that's passed down from your parents for sure.
Actually, Old Navy.
I hate you very much. But yeah, I mean, High's been doing crazy things in pro tournaments forever with the reverse sweeps or, wow, they've got no chance. And then they go to Worlds from being the number 7 seed with C9. And
then they go 3-0 one week.
And then they go 0-3 the next week. But that's not important. The clutch gene apparently wears off after the first week of Worlds.
Yeah.
But, that's okay. Liam also wants to know what happened to MikeYeung. Mikey, we're boys now. He was this big hype and now nothing.
Yeah, I can't blame it solely on MikeYeung. By the way, we haven't referenced him yet in the show.
Yeah, what's going on?
So thank you for that question. We almost can't go a show without talking about MikeYeung.
No, we cannot.
His team's just not very good. I think he's gonna. We've talked about this before. He's gonna get a lot of looks from other NA teams going forward. I don't know. The league's going to look totally different. Who knows what's going to be going on with P1, but I think people will definitely be interested in him. And yeah, he fell off a bit. He wasn't as completely dominant, taking over games on Nidalee, Lee Sin, basically whatever champion he picked, but he was still probably the best player on P1.
Yeah, he was still solid. I mean, Errol started coming into his own a little bit down the stretch, especially when Kalista was becoming a popular pick. But yeah, I mean, consistency across the board wasn't great from Ryu or Arrow or X Special or anybody. So to be a jungler in that time period,
and
just,
Rio was gone for a bit.
Yeah, they were putting in other mid laners. Purion had some time.
Yeah. Purion will be a bigger reason than MikeYeung, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, I think MikeYeung is still very solid. I don't think he was ever like the main reason for his team losing.
No, but he was the main reason for them winning. So
of course,
he's
MikeYeung, rookie of the split.
Rookie of the split, don't forget it. He's a young NA talent. People love that. Save an import slot.
That's right. Save it.
Save it.
Keep it just for MikeYeung.
Put it in your pocket.
Shane Wright. He asks, I heard talks of esports make it to the Olympics in 2024. Do you guys think it's going to happen? And if so, predictions and thoughts about rosters. I did hear about this, and it's kind of just a bid that's being made right now, and they're kind of feeling it out. I highly doubt it'll happen by 2024. The problem for me is just like imagining all these pro athletes walking out on that first night, being like, "Yeah, we're representing our country," and then there's some people with keyboards and their mice and stuff just walking along with them and stuff. Okay, that's very stereotypical, but
yeah.
For me, like, I get it, and I get why it would be in the Olympics, but for people on the IOC and a lot of viewers who have been watching the Olympics since it became a thing back in, the beginning of time.
That's right.
1800s or
right
whatever.
After the dinosaurs, the Olympics came.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's going to be a hard thing to understand, because it's not swimming, it's not a 100-meter dash, it's I'm going to play a video game for an hour.
Yeah, I mean, just like they go over like the rules for every sport beforehand. Can you imagine a big graphic coming up for like every detail about what goes into a League of Legends game? People would just like turn off immediately. I think it's still, despite how popular esports has gotten, I think it's still by far in the minority compared to all these other sports that you'll see at the Olympics. And I mean, if you're bringing in stuff like esports, then I think people will start being like, oh, why don't you just put in poker or stuff like that? And it's a little of a stupid comparison, but I can't see, I know 2024 is pretty far away, and a lot could happen by then, so maybe, but I just don't think other people are ready for it to be there yet.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some sort of bridge game into getting esports into the Olympics first.
Bridge.
Bring in very bridge. Exciting game. Yeah. But something like chess, where it's like, it's something mental that you can kind of be like, okay, I guess I understand how this is being considered a sport, or it's more mental based rather than physical.
I would say it's entirely mental based. I guess you have to move your hand for chess, so there is some physical to it. That's true. It can be pretty 6-hour game. Oh no!
What if we increase the weight of every chess piece to 20 pounds?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got to play the big chess, like the Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if that was in the Olympics, people would definitely be interested.
Yeah.
So Wizards chess needs to come in before esports comes in, but.
And then we're good.
Yeah. Then we're all good.
But very interesting.
I was pretty shocked to read that headline.
What intrigues me is I want to see a tournament where it's like players from each country represent the country and not just like Europe and North America. Like give me Team USA, give me Team Denmark, and I want to see rosters built that way. I don't think, like, it's very intriguing. Korea would still win because they're amazing.
Yeah, they're not allowed to play in the tournament because they'll just destroy everyone. But yeah, that would be another way to segue into maybe going to the Olympics eventually, is to have these, battle of the whatever, nations, countries, whatever they want to do, kind of like separating it as opposed to just EU and NA.
Yeah, like the Overwatch World Cup, but with League.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
It would be.
A lot of the teams would be terrible, though.
Yeah.
Team Canada, what do we got? We got Smoothie, we got
Turtle. Throw bio for us in there somewhere. Shifter. Oh, it's getting pretty good. Odd one in the jungle.
No.
Okay, well, that's okay.
MikeYeung is now a dual citizen because we've given him that, because he's MikeYeung.
We talk about him enough that he should get dual citizenship.
So he's a jungler. Nice. Good team.
Yeah, it's not bad. Is Faker the best player in the world, though? Still. He's had some interesting games where he's looked pretty bad.
Yeah, I feel like just because SKT's been slumping, you can probably make the argument for some other guys. But I feel like coming into Worlds, this is usually the thing. Even last year, it was like, oh, Faker probably the second best behind Smeb. There's always
Yeah.
there's always someone, whether it's Deft or some guy who's coming in and they're like, at this point in this time, they're a better player than Faker, and then he usually puts up a great performance at Worlds. But I think right now there's probably a couple guys you can maybe put ahead of him. Maybe not a couple.
A couple's maybe pushing it, but I can't really think of anyone specifically. Like, there's definitely good players out there, like you said, Smeb and whatnot. But
My boy Khan, best player in the world.
he has some pretty great outplays. He definitely
Pretty
does.
nasty.
He's the best in the world.
That's right. Heard it here first.
Eric said it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, before World, you can be like, oh, Faker's not the best. And then he comes out on the big stage and shows you why he is and performs basically every year on an international level. So I'll stick with Faker because it's a safe thing and I don't want to sound stupid too much. So I'll stick with Faker. I'm not going to go against it. Strider. Team Liquid, the new Team Coast. Ooh, that's a good comparison, everybody. Team Coast, not much success after the GGU days where they made the finals.
That was a hype team.
It was a hype team. And then Team Coast was not a hype team. They were very bad for many years.
Yes.
Nintendo X.
Shoutouts.
Yeah.
Big fan of the show. I don't think they're quite that bad, and I think the main difference between them is Liquid still has a fan base. I don't think Coast. There weren't too many Coast fans cheering at these games, I don't think, and I almost think people who were cheering for Coast were almost doing it as a joke.
Yeah.
Now, maybe that's a bit of the case with Liquid now, but I think Liquid as an organization is still big enough, and especially across not just League, they're big enough to still have like a pretty big following, and that's the main difference. Coast is bad.
At least Liquid hasn't, like, they've been bad for the past year, but at least before that, they've brought on these big name players that you can be like, oh wow, Piglet's on the team. That's pretty exciting, or Rainover, or whatever, right? So when you hear the announcement, oh, I want to cheer for Team Liquid, and then you watch them play, and then you don't want to cheer for Team Liquid,
wow,
and then you
is
start
painful.
burning things and whatnot. But I think the Team Coast is a bit harsh.
Yeah, and Liquid was at least competitive within the past few years. I mean, they were, back when they were cursed, they were one game away from Worlds, but they couldn't break the fourth place meme.
No, lost to LMQ.
Fourth place meme, undefeated, just like Father Time.
It's a good meme.
That's
I'd rather be
broke
fourth
Liquid.
than ninth.
Yeah. So I guess Liquid did break it.
Yeah, congrats.
Good job, guys.
That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Phil wants to know, why do you think Jensen got unbanned after a permaban from Riot and Tyler 1 has not? He's clearly not as toxic as he used to be, and he's obviously making an effort. Everyone's a little toxic. That is true. Everyone is a little toxic.
My goodness.
When you play League of Legends, solo queue,
Yeah.
it can be the most frustrating experience in a man's life. Or a woman's,
Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
yeah, I pretty much, within 5 minutes of the game, I've usually muted the whole team. So,
that's the best way to not be toxic.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just play in your own shell. I like to play online games by myself, you know? That's what I go for. But,
Yeah.
is Tyler 1 less toxic now? I haven't followed
I don't follow
exactly
him
what's
much
going
either
on.
because I'm not a big fan of his stream.
Again, I'm pretty sure I've referenced this on here before, but I thought all he did was like cooking videos now.
I think he still plays games
Does
and
he
yells
still
at the
play?
screen.
Okay. All right, he'll play a game and then put the VOD of the game up or something afterwards.
Something like that.
But I feel like Jensen didn't stream his toxicity when he was being toxic as Incarnation. Maybe he did, and I just totally forgot. Did he stream when he was being really toxic?
I'm not caught up on the whole Tyler 1 phase.
Because Tyler 1, that was like his shtick when he streamed. It was like, hey, check it out. I'm this really toxic Draven player who flames my whole team and the opposing team.
No, Incarnation did not like stream and make VODs of him being toxic.
Yeah, I think he just got to the top of leaderboards and was like, you suck. You're terrible. Yeah, that's what everyone does, except they don't get to the top of the leaderboards.
Exactly. Jason, Jensen's known for being a KDA player. Do you agree with this? Kind of referenced this earlier. I hate that reference. I think it's incredibly stupid. Again, I don't know when not dying became a bad thing. And he understands his limitations on every champion. He knows, hey, I can one-shot this guy and still get out without dying.
Yeah, I think especially some of the situations where, like, I've heard this about Reckless too. Guys are sitting on their fountain as the opposing team is killing their Nexus turrets, and they just sit in Fountain, and they're like, oh, guy's playing for his KDA. You want him to run in 1v5 and suicide?
You gotta try, man.
I'd be like, yeah, you could have got the Penta, the 1v5 Penta, the dream. That's what every solo queue player strives for.
That's right.
You know, I think, yeah, he plays smart. He doesn't die. He knows how important he is to the team. I don't think it's necessarily just playing for his KDA. I think he's still playing for his team by not dying.
I'm with you. I despise.
Despise?
That's
a strong word.
Player. I just think it's really stupid.
I'm a KDA player.
Oh, what's your KDA? Is it as good as Jensen's? 8.7?
I think it's better than Exiles. So, so that's pretty good.
To be a KDA player, it's got to have a higher KDA than Exiles.
Yeah, you got to go for the single digit, you know, the 1. That's the dream.
Nice.
1.
I mean, technically 8's a single digit too. But.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the point.
Oh, you don't want any decimals?
No. I want 1.0.
I gotcha.
That's what you strive for, the dream.
Fair enough. Ty Rolling wants to know who's the top ADC in North America. That's very close right now.
It is. It's probably. It might even be a. Is it 3-4 horse race? I think Doublelift has been a lot better lately. Basically, the whole first half of the split, you were kind of like, whoa, maybe he's not that much better than Wild Turtle. No, you're gonna get destroyed for that. But no, he's been a lot better the second half of the split. I'm not sure. Again, I like to just kind of say who the best bot lane is rather than the best AD because they're so influenced in lane by the support. But I think it's probably between TSM, so Doublelift, and my boy Cody Sun. Sneaky's like right behind them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Doublelift had some weird plays last week still. In the CLG series, when he was just hitting the tower, and I literally thought he DC'd from the game. He just got like killed just standing there. So, what do you Doublelift?
The Jinx pick was very interesting.
It was a pretty hype pick.
Yeah.
But that game also there were like 5 AD carries banned away. But it's cool to see him pull the Jinx. But yeah, that play was weird. Obviously, it doesn't really matter that much. It's just a one of. But probably Doublelift and Cody Sun are the two guys. Cody Sun, who would have thought, man? That's nuts.
I hope he goes on an insane run in these playoffs and just completely destroys a couple teams, and then we got to come up with some more creative Cody Sun memes because like Cody 1 it's pretty weak.
Yeah, we'll think of some more words that rhyme with Sun.
Yeah, and he's even super nice and humble. You heard him say he still thinks Doublelift and Biofrost are the best bot lane in NA, and he just wants to go up against them and prove that he can compete. And you know, what a great answer.
No personality, as
no
some would say. Yeah,
that's true.
Didn't trash talk.
He didn't trash talk. No personality.
Sorry.
So stop interviewing him.
We don't want another one. Just bring out Dardoch every time.
Yeah.
He'll give you some good stuff
to say. Dardoch and Jankos, every interview.
Let's hit a couple more questions, Eric.
Yeah, hit me.
Phil wants to know, why haven't they made another skin for Aurelion's Soul? Counter question, why haven't they made another skin for Yorick, Phil? What's going on? It's been like years. Like 2-3 years.
Well, they haven't made one for Yorick because no one plays Yorick. No one wants No one wants to see Yorick played. He's just a painful champion to see in a game. So that is why he doesn't have one. Aurelion Soul, I mean,
there's only so much you can do with a guy who throws stars.
Yeah, what would be a creative thing about him? The guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, what's his name? Star-Lord? Yeah.
That sounds right.
Just put Chris Pratt on the dragon thing.
Just the face of him. Yeah. That sounds pretty good. No copyright issues on that whatsoever.
No. I mean, I can't explain how Riot makes skins. Guys like, I mean, I think Caitlyn has like 15 skins, and then sure, Yorick has 1. It's very disproportionate. Even champions that are released at the same time. It's just who's more popular gets the skins.
It's going to be a couple of things. One, it's who's more popular. And two, you have to be able to have a design team who can come up with things that are relevant and different for these champs that are so specific.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just not that many things you can do.
Aurelion Soul?
Yeah. He'd be good at soccer.
Yeah. He's got big hands. Play goal.
There you go. Riot.
Pretty good.
Get on it. All right. Last one, Eric.
Here we go.
There's a series starting up titled The Tragedy of LMQ. Have you seen it? What do you think? I have not seen it yet. But LMQ was definitely an interesting story when they came over. And basically, it's the reason why there's this import rule in North America now.
Yeah.
Because they just brought over 5 Chinese players and were like, check this out. We're a top 3 team here and we're going to go to Worlds.
Yeah. And that was pretty hilarious to see NA LMQ. Wait a sec. The entire team is from China. Yeah, the whole downfall of that team was very interesting, obviously. Vasily had some. There was that video of him smashing his keyboard after games. That wasn't while he was on LMQ, but yeah, I haven't seen the video either, so I don't know the full downfall story of it all. But obviously, Vasily had that thing. Zhao Weizhao, you know, he had the whole boosting thing. But all those guys, they all streamed and people loved them. Zhao Weizhao and Vasily's streams were really popular, especially when they were just starting to learn English. Everyone really enjoyed watching them do that. I don't know why. That's kind of sad to watch someone struggle learning a new language and then watch them and laugh at them. But that's what people were doing. But that was a very interesting team, and it definitely shaped changed the landscape of NA.
Yeah, even after the MQ phase, it kind of went to tip for a bit. Not all of them, but a couple of them. Still had some good success there, and then just slowly faded away into obscurity.
Yeah, even a guy like Rush just disappeared.
C9 Rush.
But who survives it all? Apollo Price.
That's right.
Lives on and is actually one of the best guys. We could have given a shout out to one of the top ADs. Yeah. He's got some of the best CS difference at 10.
It's absurd.
Apollo Price.
Best name in the business.
That's right.
Shout out to him.
Shout out.
Well, thank you everyone for the questions.
It's good questions.
Another lovely day.
Beautiful.
Just a heads up, we're 3 subs away from 13,000 on YouTube. So if you want to be that 13,000, just like you want to be first in the comments, you want to be 13,000 in the subs.
Yeah,
that's the magic number.
13,000, obviously a huge number because 13, Friday the 13th, great movie, very spooky. 13,000. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you for that.
That's why you got to get that sub.
That was a great plug.
Was it a plug? Sponsored by 13,000?
Yeah, that's right.
We're Sesame Street now, sponsored by the number 13,000.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be number 13,000 is basically what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So do that. Follow us on Facebook. Enable live notifications, all that stuff. Subscribe everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And then we're back tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
At 2 o'clock. We're going to talk about some other stuff as well. Something a little different. So join us for that. Not going to spoil it.
Ooh,
tease.
Don't want to, nice tease.
That's it.
I'm left wanting more. I'll tell you what. Wow.
We're going to talk about stuff.
Ooh, in less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's great.
Anything else you want to say, Eric?
Amazing questions again.
Amazing.
As per usual, you guys really drive the show as soon as we run out of content and we're left scrambling. You guys have great questions.
Yes.
So keep them coming as always. And yeah, we'll see you in less than 24 hours.
Less than 24 hours. That's Eric. I'm Matt. And we'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. Thanks, everyone.